Hey, everybody. It's Bill from Matt-Trakker.com, and welcome to a very special episode of Behind the Mask. I'm joined by Mark Halloran, who voiced Sly Rax, Dagger, Buddie Hawks, and probably about 60 to 200 other characters in the show. They really stretched the voice actors thin on that show, having them do a lot of the little voices too. But Mark, before we dig into anything really mask related, I did thank you, not recording, but thank you again for helping with that charity auction all those years ago for Hurricane Sandy. And all of you were great with that and such a quick turnaround. It was great to be able to give that to the Red Cross from the community, from the mask community to help with that. So it was really good for that. And
well, it's a pleasure, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Well, thank you. And
so there,
so the past year's been weird for a lot of people. How have you been doing? And what have you been up to? And mask ended, and anything else you want to add in there?
What have I been doing? Oh, I have to turn introspective a little bit there. Yeah, that's about all I've done, and I wouldn't have to. I'd be embellishing if I said anything more than that, as you can see. What's he doing? I don't know what he's doing. There I go again, trying to fix things before they're broken. Now, thank you for the question. That's a great question, actually. And I'm into some different things, and I'm still discovering, even at this age now. Well, I should, yeah, just see how things are, going forward and changing different things. I'm spending more time with music. The piano's behind me. I have a couple of guitars and a ukulele, and I do some Zooms with some people who are in the. We have a croon session. I sing, so I do that, and I just thoroughly enjoy it. It's just like. It's the best thing for me, and I enjoy it. The mask was a wonderful experience, and it's hard to believe it's been 36 years now, 1985. Yeah. And it was a wonderful experience. In as a career builder, but also more importantly as a connection with several people who I've had lifetime friendships with, and that is an amazing, is a wonderful, comforting thought for sure. I mean, it was a real gift.
No, it has been like 36 years. I'm 38, so I've been around for almost all of it. And as you can tell behind me, m.a.s.k had a big influence on my life, and it still does today. It's something that I'm hoping that will eventually come back, but it really hasn't. And it's always great to be able to connect with the actors and people that worked on the show. And I don't know any of you personally, but I would make this joke with Sharon when I would talk with her. I'm like, all of you are like the aunts and uncles I always wanted. It's like
God that you didn't want, right?
Yeah. It's
like some.
Yeah, it's
Okay, thanks.
But it's that kind of it's that kind of dynamic where it took me forever to realize, when I'm a kid, I don't realize that you and Doug and Brendan, Graham, Sharon, like all these people are the ones that are making those voices. It's a cartoon. You're watching it on TV as a kid. You don't realize any of that. And then later on in life, you go, wait a minute, those are people. They're actors. And then it brings it into more perspective. And when I've gotten to like randomly chat with all of you over the years, it was really refreshing to see, one, that for the most part you're all still talking to each other. You're sharing stories with a crazy person, me. But it's
you are so off, man. You are so off.
I know. My appointment's right after this interview.
And I should tell you, I'm sorry, you asked me that question earlier right off the top about what I've been up to lately, which is a great question. And I went into my stand-up sort of routine bit about, the future and what I've been doing. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be disrespectful because it's a great question. And I certainly appreciate it.
I know.
I know, but I mean, it's like, oh, he's into his jokes again. He said he wouldn't, and just mute.
I don't think we agreed on no jokes.
Well,
I'm pretty sure knows, really.
Then I can hear it being said as being simply an oversight to the preconditions of this interview. Then.
Well, so there's some stuff in your early career, most notably, I want to like before you got involved with m.a.s.k.
Yeah.
Found this thing, I believe it was Star Search, right?
Yeah.
And I found it on a very obscure YouTube channel. It's Mark Halloran's YouTube channel.
Very obscure, actually.
He started it about, I would say 7 years ago, and there's a couple of things up there. But I typed in Sinbad in your name, which that's probably a weird thing to type in. And I was listening to it, and it didn't have the Sinbad portion, but Sinbad, whatever. But I was listening.
No, Sinbad was great. I mean, yeah. All right. I did not put Sinbad up. No, that's true. But he was a gentleman, a very nice person.
That's what I always hear. But in the context of this, push him off to the side. Your impressions were
like Cliff Dagger or something. You're starting to sound like one of the Mayhem characters or something. Push him over to the side. I don't know. Get rid of him, will you?
Yeah.
Yeah, how you doing? I'm doing all right, but he's got to go. He's got to go, man.
That was okay. Impressive. Was it hard? Yeah. Like, so what happened after that night with Star Search? After that, did you continue on? Did you continue to win, or was it?
Well, what happened was I won the first one, and then they told me, "Get out of here!" and pushed me over to the side after the second one, and that was the nature of the show. It was kind of a competition or whatever. Win, lose, lose. Bye. Okay. And but I was. I mean, you can always look back on these things in hindsight and say, well, maybe if I had done this, the outcome would have been a little better on the second show. But the truth is, it was what it was, and it was a great experience.
When you did the Jack Nicholson impression, I was like, oh, there's a little Sly Rax coming out there.
A whole lot, actually. Yeah, really.
Yeah. But I just found it funny, like, watching it. And what I said earlier, like, it goes back to that where, not until you're a little bit older do you realize, hey, that's a person doing that. And it's always really, really nice to see the actual person doing the voice from that cartoon. So,
well, thank you. I mean, you sound great too. When we first start anything new, we're we're all as human beings, I think, and my feeling on it is that we're all just sort of like doing little baby walks or trying to walk and crawling at first, and then we develop it and things. I also think what would happen if I went back and we redid the shows. Where would he compared to what we did? Because it's 35, 36 years later, or even if it's like the next day, you may have a different variation of how you would have said something or done something. I was really I'd never done any animation voice. No, not like the mask, like mask. So it was new, and now it. It was a great experience, but yeah, it was quite a time. It's almost like we all have. It's like we all have. I think sometimes I think of it in terms of not just one life, but multiple lives that we live that are connected to each other.
It's a good way of looking at it. It really is.
I mean, it just sort of like overlaps a little bit. It goes over here and you go over here. And if this had happened, then this would have happened later and over here. And if there had been no mask, there would have been none of the friendships that we had. We would have all gone our separate ways. We'd be walking by each other today, maybe not even noticing or knowing. There's so many cool, wonderful people doing great, creative material that we're not aware of, that we don't see, that don't, the first in line gets the shot at the show, the second in line doesn't, and everybody behind them doesn't, goes off and tries to get something else, get into another line and try to do it all over again in something else. But they could be really first in line and no one would really notice. If you get what, there's just so many talented people. Some of the best material is is probably on Zoom now. Because
as you said earlier, like you're playing in a band really, and you're singing through it. You have other people playing instruments, and it's a really cool concept. And having the pandemic happen the way it did, it kind of helped solidify some things out there, and it helped bring, even though people are apart, it helped bring people closer together in some aspects too. And one of the things that I really enjoy about the channel, it's not, it has nothing to do with really anything else for me other than collecting stories, right?
Yeah.
And I've made friends with people. Sorry about my son screaming in the background, by the way.
As long as he's okay, I'm okay.
He's fine. He's being tortured with food. Friendships that I've made through this, and it's a weird dynamic. But again, as you said, like where does everything kind of go if m.a.s.k wasn't a thing? I wouldn't have this website and this channel. I wouldn't have the friends that I've made. I wouldn't be able to do stuff for charity and all these other elements. So it's an interesting dynamic. The butterfly effect, I think it's called. Something doesn't happen and it trickles down or whatever.
Butterfly flapping its wings in Tokyo is going to have an effect even on me sitting here in Los Angeles. Yeah, I think, well, the world is an amazing, wow, I'm going to say something totally perfect. It's an amazing place with lots of interesting things. And you're right. I mean, seriously, though, you're right. I mean, it is profound. I really think about it, the way we all go navigate through life into what we're doing. The Star Search came just about the same time as the Star Search was a year before, but I didn't do it for another year. That's a whole story. in itself. And when I did get on in January of 1985, and then into m.a.s.k, if I hadn't come down to do Star Search, I wouldn't been connected with. I may have been connected, but I don't know. I mean, the way the connection came out was that it went Star Search, and then I was doing the Comedy Store, doing stand-up at the Comedy Store, doing impressions and things, and out of that, I got a call saying they're asking about a voice for a voice audition for a series, and that's how that came out. So all of a sudden, it was like, wow, this is something else. I'm getting 2 shots at once, and
so you went from doing stand up and doing, that was how you were found essentially. That's how you were found, and I mean that's a cool story. Like, as you said, and as we're talking about, that might not have happened. Maybe it still would have. But if you think about it, you just kind of keep flowing with it. You just keep going. That's the important thing.
Yeah, no, and being grateful, I think, is because when I think back on it, I think, wow.
Don't mind the cat.
That was something else. What you I don't mind the cat. I had 2 cats. I have 2 cats and a dog.
Yeah. I think she wants to get out there. So.
Sly. That's interesting.
So
the thing about the Jack Nicholson thing, it's funny that you, in a way, that you said you saw the Star Search and you heard me doing Jack Nicholson and everybody else. I was telling them it was Jack Nicholson, but what you heard was Sly Rax. And I thought, yeah, that's true, because, I mean, that's what my brother said right away. He says, you're doing Jack Nicholson. Yeah. Well, why not if it works? And if it works, they bought it. I mean, so I sold it, And this Cliff Dagger was more like a Sylvester Stallone and... I tried sort of doing a thing with Buddie Hawks as Richard, was a Richard Dreyfuss sort of a thing, like a good girl character from him, it's like almost like a effervescent, high energy kid with nervousness and stuff. And, okay, this is what we're going to do. Okay, I'm here, Matt. I'm here for you, man. Character. As his sidekick, so to speak, I guess. Yeah, And then I remember saying to my dear friend Brendan McCain, who just passed away recently, I remember saying who was Miles Mayhem. We were talking, and I said, and I tried to do Miles Mayhem. I was doing like, well, Matt, what do you think of? And I did it for about a minute or so. I said, my throat is sore, man. That's kind of a tough thing to. And he said, yeah, it is. It's a little tougher. It's not because you have to get the oomph, like the right underneath, and you should use everything too, but in that one it's like, wow. I mean, it always seemed like, because let's face it,
does seem like there was a lot of power behind that voice, and you had that graveliness too. So I can imagine that would have been really hard to try to produce on a constant basis, let alone trying it for the
well, probably. It's funny, Bill, because what comes up to my mind is a gravelly voice. I think of George C. Scott, and I was thinking back in those days, I hadn't even thought of it as George C. Scott doing Miles Mayhem. We'll get $50 million or we're out of here. Okay, boys? What's going on? We'll blow that thing up right now. Matt-Trakker. And right now I'm like, Matt-Trakker, yeah. It's like,
Well, I mean, since you brought up Brendan, I've had the opportunity to chat with him over the years, and um, Sharon was sharing along what was going on, and not only Brendan but Stu Rosen passed away too, not too long
Yes,
ago.
Stu. Yes, director.
So I don't know if you have any funny stories you'd like to share of either one, because while we do, we don't want anybody to ever be gone, but let's try to honor their memory a little bit. That's something funny from your days there. I did see the one picture that Doug posted where you're all standing there staring at Stu, like waiting for him to do something, and you're just literally standing there for. I think Doug said you guys stood there for like 10 minutes and he didn't recognize anybody was standing there. I found that to be funny in that front, but if you have anything to share, it'd be great. If not, it's okay.
Well, no, I mean, I think with Stu Rosen, Stu had there was a character that was a sort of side character. There was always like the main lead characters, of course, and I'm sorry I'm going into the basics here, but the main lead characters every week, and then there were the secondary roles, and then there were roles that we pitched for. I don't know if anybody ever mentioned that to you. They pitched for it, so we.
I don't remember that.
It was like an audition or something right there on the spot. Okay, we've got a guy who is older, who's in a giving Matt-Trakker a shave. He's the barber. Who's going to give us a barber? And we have a woman who is cleaning the floor, who's really angry at the kid for right. So that goes to Sharon. But the rest of us are fighting over the whatever was.
Yeah.
And but there were and they would cast them sort of like on the spot and say, oh no, like you, and you could pitch it, and then it's like okay, Doug gets this, and Graham gets this, and Mark gets that, and and the kid was good too. The kid is no longer a kid, or hasn't been for a while, right?
He's probably a little
he's
old.
Great. He was he's a good kid, and I'm sure a fine gentleman. And so one day there was a character, and it's funny because I have a cell of it with Matt-Trakker with Duane Kennedy. Duane Kennedy was the PNA or Peace National Alliance or something. It was like, obviously it was a play on the United Nations, and he was the UN secretary or something, and he would always come in and he had with a suit and stuff. So when he was creating the kind of the voice for it, and they said, okay, you give us what you're going to do, and Stu was really good on a number of things, but he was really I particularly remember the directing me through the nuances of this character. So, and I think I understood right off, because when you do an impression, or at least my experience has been that I go outside, I go big.
Okay.
Because you're looking for it. You're looking for what's going to be the lock on to something. So you go kind of big, you go ranging out because you don't know where it is. So, and then you can gradually get a little piece of it, or just bring it down and give it nuances so that it sounds as so. Duane Kennedy was always the one that made me kind of laugh because it was so like straight. For me, as you can tell already, keeping a straight face is I'm more like I love. Well, anyway, I was going to do you do a straight face with this guy, and then when you're in it, it all of a sudden just makes you laugh because it's like so strange to be doing that character.
Your core, basically.
Yeah, a bit, because he was so dry. He had to be dry, and so he'd go, Matt, I'm not sure, but I'm a little concerned about what's going on the side of Mayhem. Miles seems to be able to, and so I'd have to kind of almost go back like this with my back. I'd almost have to say that that's the truth. Well, let's hope it is, whatever it is, and be able to, and even now I'm like clenching my jaw and changing it a little bit in the mouth. And he would coach me on that. And in one particular session with that, I remember it, and it was so helpful. So, Brendan was the first thing I remember with Brendan. I think was one of the very first recordings we did. I think it was the first one that we did any voices where we recorded, and they were going to put it to animation. And we had hardly known each other, any of us known each other. The good thing, of course, is we're all happy we got the work. It was great. 65 episodes, and then consequently, or whatever later, we came up with 10 more. Yeah, but in 86. And then, but the 65, and to do the first one, and we were just started doing it, and I think it hit everybody as kind of just like, really? People do this for a living? Like, isn't that amazing? And this is like, get into it, and all of a sudden you're like a kid again. And I remember Marcia Goodman, the director, said, okay, you're all having too much fun. And under my breath, I said to Brendan, but it is fun. And he said, yes, it is. So there was, it was, then it was just a moment, just saying like, yeah, wow, this is cool. I like this. Not everybody gets to do this. And just to have that was a wonderful experience.
Well, thanks for sharing those. Do you remember? So Doug told me this, and I don't know if you remember it as well. It's not bad.
Oh no, but I'm just.
But I think everybody went over to Alan Thicke's house, right?
Yeah.
First episode, was that? Do you remember that at all?
Well, I remember going over to Alan Thicke's house, and I think it was the young man's birthday.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Brendan.
Was it decked out with hockey everywhere? Because I know Alan's a big hockey guy.
I didn't invade every room in the house, so I'm not sure. There may have been a Hockey Hall of Fame in there somewhere. A lot of it, some of us are Canadian, so this is what was it seemed only natural. And Alan being
it's in their blood. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the blood. It really is.
Are you follow any sports at all?
M.a.s.k will be right back, and so will Venom. Now back to M.a.s.k.
Camera angle. I just have the one I have in front of me like this, But
all right, we'll swing back to M.a.s.k. Thank you for indulging some sports talk with me. That'll be our next podcast. It'll be Mark and Bill talk.
Well, I don't know. I kind of wanted to go into the quantum physics and some of Einstein's ideas on the universe and stuff. And
what we'll do is once a week, twice a week we'll do the show. Once a week we do that, and then the other one is sports.
Okay.
It's a good mix.
Yeah. Yes, and it's healthy. It's healthy for us to do that too. Not just
right. So I have some questions here. I asked some people from the website and the channel if they had any questions for you. One of them came in. Out of the voices that you did for the show, did you have a favorite?
It's always those are great questions. It's like when I was doing impressions, people might ask me, and I mean, these were people who would come into the club. They didn't know me from Adam or anything like that, and I wasn't known. I was not as known, I'm not, So if I did some impressions and did them. And they'd see me again or something, they might say, so which one is your favorite impression, And I think, wow, it's kind of like under different categories. I mentioned Richard Dreyfuss, in 1979, 1980, or whenever in that era, that time period, 79, I guess, maybe 70, wow. 77, 78, somewhere in there, with the Goodbye Girl, and I'm sorry, I lost what exact date, but anyway, Goodbye Girl, just at the end of the 70s. He was, I called him golden. He was golden for me. I didn't, for the longest time, I had a beard and I would do the impression, and Dustin Hoffman was always like super golden and still recognized to today. And the one that's even perhaps more is Robert De Niro. I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, the face and everything. It's perfect.
I don't know. I think so. That's all right. You can say that. Go ahead. What were you going to say? So, George C. Scott, in the earlier times, with the kind of a like Patton type of thing going on, I used to have a routine between George C. Scott as this guidance counselor who was like still had the pearl handle guns on the side and stuff, and was doing Patton, and to Dustin Hoffman's Graduate, and because the dynamic was so much fun to play the two off. And now I'm just not just what I'm doing is I'm having a great time with music, and it's a great challenge for me. I'm learning the piano. I started when I was a kid, but when I was a kid, I just didn't have the discipline for it, or, I'd be like, okay, can I go play baseball now, sort of thing. And now I'm like going like, oh, well, I don't think it helps necessarily to go back and say, well, who knows where I'd be, who knows where I would have been. You don't understand, Sly. I bet Cliff. Hey, you, Cliff, you going back? You going back there? Don't take me back there, man. I ain't no bum. And there was one Stallone. So Stallone was the inspiration for the Cliff Dagger, of course. So for me, so the opportunity to come into the music, to have people, and to do something a little, was quite different. It was like having a second. It's like having a second or third, area of investigation, or at least, of creativity. I just think it's great when people are doing whatever they're doing, that they're adding to the creative energy around us, and it helps. It really does. It's great. It's good. It stands on its own, I think. So there.
Well, thank you for that answer. Here's a good one. No, I'm. That's my segue to the next one.
Yeah, it's great. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at myself, going like,
I'm not a professional. I don't know.
You're doing great. You're asking the right questions, and making everybody. The main thing is to make the guest feel comfortable. I feel very comfortable with you, and I'm not going to do a joke about that, or until after the show.
Okay, good. I won't record that. Here's a good one here, and I don't know if you remember too much like about the cartoon itself, but imagine you're Buddie Hawks here for a second.
Yeah.
And you're out on a date. And all of a sudden,
Oh my God, you're psychoanalyzing it.
your giant watch goes off, and you gotta just leave what you're doing and go.
Seems to me
How do you feel about that as Buddy? Like, are you just tired of it, or do you feel bad about leaving your date there? Like, walk us through that.
Well, I think it would just be a feeling of feeling very awkward, and about how he's going to sidestep out out the door, and become this superhero. Mask gone, mask gone, and he's gone. I think what I liked about Buddy is he was enthusiastic. He gung ho, sincere. There was sincerity there. He was up for the good things and to doing the right thing. And he would say probably like, I hate to do this. I don't normally do this. But my watch just went off, and I'm sorry. I know you didn't explain it to you, but I've got to go. And I don't make it up to you. I promise. Please don't shut the door in my face right after I leave. And it's all explainable. I know you're terrific. You're wonderful. I really wish this had happened at some other time, but
I would have loved that actually, because most of those were always silent, like those cutscenes away. It would have been really cool if you guys had the ability to like kind of improvise something there as you're just automatically leaving something, or like how Brad Turner, Graham's character, he's in the middle of a rock show and he's just like, oh, throws the guitar down and just runs off the stage. Like that's a dynamic I wish was in the show. Like it really would, I think, like let you guys kind of have more fun, although you weren't allowed to have fun apparently.
No, we were allowed to have fun. We just had to keep it under. Right, I know what you mean. But it was more like she was just kind of like saying, okay, control yourselves. Don't, you're in a candy store, kids. And you can't have the kids running around putting 10,000 pounds of chocolate and what candies in their pockets. So yeah, no, that's interesting. Probably that would be more if you were doing a live action. There would be more opportunity for that. Okay, it would be more open-ended in that direction.
Yeah,
because the director may want, and yet it all depends on who's how they're feeling. Because if they don't. I think we had a certain area where you could improvise, and I think they would, if a line sounded better saying it this way or more with a character, then they could change it. But generally, the writers were good, and you could keep with what they were saying. I remember making fun of joking around with somebody about Cliff Dagger, saying, that Cliff wasn't sure. He was responding to himself about, oh, is it my turn now? I don't know. Did I read the script right? Like he was, but Cliff Dagger, there's a character, right? I mean,
definitely a character.
If you look at, well, not that I'm comparing them, because I that's not my point in a sense, but it just reminds me of, like, if you look at some of the great actors, like all of a sudden I'm getting a picture of Peter Lorre, from Casablanca, or Maltese Falcon, and you'd have to think that maybe when they were rehearsing it, there would be some. They may. I mean, they all have their lines down and they know them and everything, but the character is so strong that they may have added something or pushed something, and it's just interesting because. Because they bring it, because they bring it to life, and the most amazing characters, they live on sort of through the movies and stuff like that, and they carry on, and it's just like you wouldn't see it any other way. In other words, when you watch a film, like I have watched Casablanca so many times, like so many other people, of course, is that when you're watching it, you realize, wait, this repeats itself. You play it again, it's exactly the same way. You're seeing the same thing. Except that maybe when you're watching it, and why I like Casablanca so much was because even though I've watched it so many times, I'm still, I noticed last time I saw it, which was fairly recently, that I saw some things or felt some things that I hadn't before, that there was a little more like the innuendo, the perspective on it was a little different. You go like, because when in that film, what makes that film work, I think, I'm not an expert, but what works for me is that it's so tight. When I mean tight, what I mean is it's very, there's no fat, it's all straight ahead. It goes, it ties one into the next, into the next, into the next. It's kind of like the, as far as the plot line goes, you can see that you go, the connections to this, to this, to this. So there's no kind of like, oh, well, I guess they could have cut that out for about 10 seconds there and shortened that scene up or that or this or that. But it's just tight. It's like we just, no more than needs be, no less than should be,
That does make sense. And, this actually, it would be good for the next question in here. So if a movie or a cartoon revival did happen, would you want to be involved in any way?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, it would be an honor. It would be sweet to be involved, to be asked to be involved, in something that you did, the opportunity of doing something or contributing to something that happened 35 years ago, just like in the movie Cape Fear,
Early 90s, right?
Well, I'm gonna talk about early 90s, 91, I think, with Robert De Niro, and then as Max Cady, I think it was. Yeah, Max Cady, the psycho guy, who's the guy gets out of jail, and then Nick Nolte played the counselor, the family, but 3 decades before that, in the early 60s, it was played, Robert Mitchum played the Robert De Niro part.
Forgot about that.
And Gregory Peck played the attorney. And then I like the idea, and I'm glad they did it, where I guess Martin Scorsese brings in or asks or puts in a cameo of Robert Mitchum and Gregory Peck into the later film, so which is kind of like a nod to the first film. So yeah,
I think if I remember correctly, I might have asked the same question to Doug, and he was like, "Yeah, we can." I was like, "Well, first of all, would you do your own stunts?" It's
like we did in the original cartoon.
You guys were all doing those. I know. I saw the footage. It was all capture animation. It's all you guys jumping around there.
We had to do a lot of, when you have to do that kind of like Wallace stuff. The there's a word for it. I forget for where you get the oh, you have to be a crowd or you have to be, because sometimes it would be like, oh yeah, here we come, like,
Yeah.
and then you'd have 10, all of us together being a crowd together, you know. Yeah, there was. Oh, hey.
Yeah, but Doug said, he's like, yeah, we could just be sitting around having coffee or something like that. And if it was live action, you guys could do that as a nod. But obviously, if a cartoon happened, that's an easier way to maybe have, you know, I don't know what would be, but it's an easier way for you guys to maybe step back into your roles for a little while if you wanted to, or
Yeah, no, well, yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, you know, I don't know if it's Return to Mayberry, but it's sort of kind of like that, you know. What was the name of the place? Boulder City or something? And then
Boulder Hill, yeah,
Boulder Hill, and then you could have that. That would be great. I think it's, you know, it's really nice that the people remember, those people who remember the show, really, and I say that genuinely, because I ran into people who didn't like the thing with the cartoon is people are not going to just go and see you and say, oh, there's the guy who does Sly Rax or the kids or whatever. They're not going to ever know for that, right? Until years later, somebody said, oh, yeah, I understand you were in the m.a.s.k series. And, you know, and here I am doing something that's not associated with, it's in a totally different area. And then of work, recognizing it or saying it, it always sort of like caught me like, wow. Is that amazing about movies and the media and everything like that? Even if you're on a little bit, and if somebody catches you and you impress them a little bit, maybe one person, two people, whatever, hundreds, whatever, I won't even say, give it a number, and they come back and say that, because that happened a couple of times. And somebody I was working with said, hey, I understand you were at the m.a.s.k series, and I was just a kid then. You know, it's like,
leave me alone.
You know, yeah, right. Well, yeah, because when it first came out, it was kind of, you know, you're not used to sort of seeing something that you worked on necessarily that much. What I mean is, it was like on Channel 13 here, I think, every day, Monday to Friday or something, and they played it. They played the hell out of all of them, and it went across, North America, and it went across, you know, internationally, overseas, you know, in Canada, the United States, and across into England and so forth. So it and then I walked into a Hollywood toy store on Hollywood Boulevard around that time, or it would have been a few months after we had started, because they were the merchandise was going to catch up to the show, and all these like things that you have memorabilia behind you there were just like that in displayed in the Hollywood toy and costume store, which is a huge and wonderful assortment of costumes and all kinds of different toys for all kinds of different kids and stuff, and I went in there for something for a costume or something, to get something, and saw this and went, wow, look at this is all the m.a.s.k stuff, you know. Hey, you know, wow. Hey, everybody, take a look. Hey, Sly, come over here. Take a look. Look, what do you see there? Jeez. Well, how much of this are we getting? Wow. You know, and so it was fun. It just really impressive impressed me with how the impact of the media. So, and even more now. Now we're into the whole, and have been for several years, into the internet.
No, that's a cool story. Like, and I remember when I was a kid and kind of having the same concept with that, but I'd be going in and grabbing everything and throwing it in my parents' cart and say, buy this or I'll start crying, probably. Something along those lines. It's, it does harken back a lot of really good memories for people. And there's a pretty big following. There's a lot of different Facebook channels or groups. There's a lot of websites out there. People are still buying and selling the items.
Yeah, I see that. That's impressive.
And it's impressive that, with no other corporate backing past when, the show ended, there's been, no other cartoon or very little with anything else with toys, but it's still going on to this day. I was, wondering, you kind of, alluded to it a little bit, but how does that make you feel knowing that something that you did such a long time ago is still impacting people in a positive way?
Well, it's beyond what we were thinking at the beginning. I mean, to still have a number of people, that it has fans, that they've been great and remember it, and it's a lot the way I would have felt like as a kid for really not even really an argument. It was even the bigger shows that when I was a kid was the Jetsons, and before that the Flintstones. Is that Hanna-Barbera and the Looney Tunes and Disney were all, when they were doing their animation, had such an impact on generations of kids, and it's staggering almost to think about it. It really is.
I know. Yeah, I know it can be a little odd too if you think about it. Like, you talked about it a little bit too, and I mentioned it earlier. Like, we didn't know who you were until later. So you could have walked into that Hollywood toy store and sat there next to the m.a.s.k toys at the time, and it would have been like nobody can make the the connection there. And
no,
but now if you were out somewhere, people know what you look like. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing for you, but they know the face behind the voices, and they know that it's a person that really put their craft into this. They tried their best and had fun doing it, and I think that's a lot of what's really appreciated too. Not just the simple fact that there were great writers, you had great directors. The music was always catchy, but the core is you all as the collective, and I think knowing what great people you are, seeing how it kept carrying, and I think that also helps too. Like there's all this stuff out there that you could be a fan of, and with m.a.s.k, the whole package. It's not just the toys. It's not just the cartoon by itself. It's all of it together. It's seeing, having these conversations. That's what it's all about, really. And it's always great to have the perspective too, because I've never worked in Hollywood or worked on for anything major, and hearing the stories, I can imagine, like, it helps us imagine what it would have been like to be there. And is there a lot of magic happening there? No, it's all of you standing around recording your lines, but that's where it starts. And then you have it carry through to the final pieces and what you see behind me, like, and everything else. And there's all these starting points, and then we just keep going with it. And I'm always going to be appreciative of the fact that, like I said, I don't remember if it was on the portion of the recording or not, but when you helped with the charity auction, and then I joke with Sharon saying that you're the aunts and uncles that I've always wanted. It's just a real pleasure to know that all of you didn't turn out to be giant monsters, I guess. In the end, once the masks were off, I guess that's what we can go with there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, that's very nice. Thank you. And it's great to ask me to invite me to your show, and wow, I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it too. Your video locked up, but
oh, it did.
It's okay. You're stuck on a face that looks like you're thinking.
Oh, is that what happened here? Let me see here. What happened here? I'm just curious. Stop. There's the face. Right.
That's there. You go.
Okay.
It just kind of locked up for a second.
Yeah. No, it's all right.
I was just gonna.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah. But no, it was a real honor and a pleasure be able to speak with you. I hope you're able to stay safe through everything and enjoy the upcoming hockey season. Enjoy enjoy Matthews and Joe Thornton on the line together. And until next time.
Okay.
Mark,
great.
Please
Bill.
like, comment, and subscribe to help keep m.a.s.k alive. And we'll talk to you later.
Sure. Thanks, Bill. It's been a pleasure. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Spectrum sky.